Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. I am so excited to jump into today's topic because honestly, it is a total game changer for so many people. Today, we're digging into some really fascinating insights from Nicole. She's a lab-literate nutrition writer who focuses heavily on plant-based eating, especially for folks in midlife. And she tackles this hidden trap that catches, so many health-conscious eaters completely off guard. It's that incredibly frustrating feeling of being constantly full, but somehow still just totally exhausted. We're going to unpack exactly why that happens and, more importantly, how to fix it using this brilliant framework she's laid out for us. Seriously, take a second and think about this. Have you ever eaten just an absolute mountain of food, like maybe a massive salad or a huge overflowing bowl of roasted veggies, and you push your plate away thinking, wow, okay, I literally could not eat another bite. But then, an hour later, you're completely exhausted, standing in front of the pantry, just staring, looking for a snack. It's so frustrating because you feel like you've eaten enough, your stomach is physically stretched, and yet your brain is flashing this giant low battery warning. Well, if that sounds familiar, you are absolutely not alone. And the best news, you are not doing anything wrong. Okay, so let's dive into this biological mismatch. When you switch over to a whole food, plant-based diet, you're naturally eating foods like vegetables, fruits, legumes, intact grains. And the beautiful thing about these foods is that they are high in volume, meaning they're completely packed with water and fiber. But they are naturally very low in calorie density. That's exactly why they're so great for your health, right? But here's the catch. If you're used to eating a certain physical volume of food from a more calorie-dense diet, one with oils, processed foods, animal products, and you just swap out the type of food without bumping up the portion size, you run into a huge issue. You might be eating the exact same volume of food, but you are suddenly taking in way fewer actual calories. Your stomach, it doesn't know the difference, but your cells, oh, they absolutely do. And that brings us to this crucial aha moment. Fullness does not equal adequate calories. This right here is the core paradox of plant-based eating. Think of a high-fiber stomach like a giant suitcase that you've packed completely full of bubble wrap. Sure, the suitcase is full, it takes up a lot of space, you literally couldn't cram another thing inside it. But if you actually need clothes for your trip, that bubble wrap is completely useless. It takes up physical space, but it lacks the actual functional fuel your body needs to run its basic essential processes. All right, moving on to section 1, the agitation. Let's look at 6 sneaky signs you might actually be undereating. So, what actually happens when we pack our stomachs with bubble wrap, day in and day out? Because undereating isn't just about your stomach rumbling, it starts to systematically affect your entire physiology, often in ways you wouldn't even connect to your diet. Let's run through these 6 signs Nicole points out. First, persistent fatigue. Your body isn't getting enough energy, so it just downregulates. You just feel sluggish all the time. Second, and I really love this one, increased cravings, especially late at night. You know that midnight raid for vegan Oreos? That is not a moral failure. That's not a lack of discipline. That is a desperate biological cry for fast energy because you underate all day. Third, feeling cold when no one else is. Your body is just trying to conserve heat. Fourth, hair thinning or skin changes, because your body literally stops putting energy into tissue maintenance. Fifth, blood sugar swings that cause this random urgent hunger. And finally, number 6, that dreaded weight loss plateau or rebound. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why simply eating less doesn't work long term. Welcome to adaptive thermogenesis. When you continually underfeed your body, it doesn't just keep burning fat forever. It adapts. It realizes, there's a fuel shortage, so it reduces your total energy expenditure to conserve whatever fuel it has left. Your metabolism literally slams on the brakes. This is exactly why your weight loss slows down, your progress stalls out completely, and any future fat loss becomes incredibly difficult. Your body isn't working against you, it's trying to save your life. I really want this next point to sink in. This isn't a lack of willpower, it's biology trying to catch up. If you have been beating yourself up over late-night snacking or feeling exhausted on your new diet, please just let yourself off the hook right now. Your body is simply trying to survive what it perceives as a famine. It's doing exactly what millions of years of evolution trained it to do. So let's shift gears. Section 2, how to fix your fuel. How do we actually flip the script here? We definitely don't need to abandon our whole food plant-based goals, and we absolutely don't need to resort to highly processed junk food just to get our calories up. We just need to be far more intentional about how we're building our plates. So here is our 5-step roadmap to refueling the body properly. We're talking about structuring your meals, bringing in the right anchors, using density smartly, tracking just temporarily to get a baseline, and ultimately building balanced meals. Let's break these down so you can literally start applying them to your very next meal. Step 1 is all about structure. Specifically, we're aiming for roughly 500 to 700 calories per meal for 3 solid meals a day. We've got to break that habit of endless grazing. You know when you just snack on low-calorie plant foods all day long? You constantly feel like you're eating, but you never actually accumulate enough total energy. Sitting down to 3 properly sized 500 to 700 calorie meals, that solves a massive percentage of undereating right out of the gate. Now, step 2 is how we actually hit those calorie targets without having to eat a bathtub-sized salad. Starch anchors, potatoes, rice, oats, beans, lentils. These have to be the foundation of your meals. Look, veggies are amazing, but starches are your primary fuel source. They are what provide that sustained, slow-burning energy throughout the day. They give you both the physical fullness you want and the actual biological fuel your cells need. Step 3 is what we call strategic support. Say you're piling on the starches and veggies, and the physical volume of the food is just getting way too high for your stomach to comfortably handle. That's when you need to add small amounts of dense fats. We're talking nuts, seeds, avocado, tahini. These aren't the main course, right? But adding just a couple of tablespoons of tahini over a bowl or a heavy sprinkle of pumpkin seeds, it injects this concentrated dose of calories without adding any of that uncomfortable bulk to your stomach. Now, what's really interesting here is how beautifully this all comes together in step 5, building balanced meals. Think about how these 3 components work as a team. You've got your starch, that gives you the actual energy your cells are begging for. You've got your fiber, that gives you the necessary physical satiety and stretch in your stomach. And then you have your fat, which gives the meal its staying power. It keeps your blood sugar stable so you don't crash 2 hours later. Balancing these 3 elements perfectly stabilizes your energy and completely eliminates that rebound hunger. All right, final stretch. Section 3, the ultimate mindset shift. We've got the mechanics down, sure, but mechanics aren't enough if your brain is still playing by the old rules. Diet culture has deeply, deeply conditioned us to believe that if a diet isn't working, if our weight loss stalls, or we just feel off, the answer is always eat less, restrict more. But the plant-based reality completely flips that on its head. If you're eating whole plant foods and it's not working, the answer is almost always eat enough. Applying a toxic diet culture mindset of restriction to naturally low-calorie plant foods, it's a recipe for disaster. It will actively sabotage your progress, it'll crash your metabolism, and it makes long-term success practically impossible. I really want to slow down right here because this is honestly the core message of our entire explainer today. Sometimes the problem isn't what you're eating, it's that you're literally just not eating enough of it. You don't necessarily need to completely overhaul your diet. You don't need to hunt down some magical new superfood, and you certainly don't need to try harder to ignore your hunger. You just need to respect your body's fundamental need for actual fuel. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder today. Look at your very next plate of food. Run it through the framework we just talked about. Ask yourself, is this just a suitcase full of bubble wrap? Will you just be physically full, or will you finally be adequately fueled? Because the difference between those two things, it might just change your entire experience with plant-based eating. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I seriously cannot wait to see how you apply this to your own meals.